Okay, we're over at the vise. Now, my vise has alloy jaws in it. I have one with, the steel serrated jaws for hanging onto things, and this is for the softer stuff, but they do get a bit marked up over time. So what I like to do is pop a bit of cardboard in the vise jaws, because we need to hang on to this fairly firmly. Oh, and the other thing I suppose is be aware that this surface here and these bolt holes here are a good place to support it. Now if you go way down in here further, you will pick up the vise here, but you have a space here. So it would be possible to crack the housing out. So on this, which I think it's the bottom one from memory, isn't it? We've just got our engine upside down. So we'll pop a bit of cardboard in there. Try and support it where those two holes are. And you probably need it fairly firm. Now, these little seals. Now we probably should put a little bit of talk, have a conversation about these. Now, graphite impregnated. Now, when you read the manual, it says that they don't need cutting off. They should be the correct length. And I've heard, if you buy genuine Massey, this is a Sparex one, if you buy genuine Massey Ferguson ones, they're the correct length and they don't need cutting off at a later date. I bought some genuine ones and they still needed cutting off. So it may be different countries have different things available to them. I don't know. But anyway, what I like to do is we need to force this all the way out. Now if you start out, there's a couple of little lines down here that help you push the seal in. So if you start out, make sure it's out solid, and it doesn't matter if it's not quite in the centre yet. Then I've got a piece of shaft here. So what I like to do is really force this into the groove. And you can see that's all the way there. It's sitting in the groove nicely. And make sure you have a polished shaft. The other thing is, if you haven't got a piece of shaft, an aerosol can, the bottom of an aerosol can, it will help you push in there. So, I'll just kick that for you. So, pop that out of the way a little bit. So we've pushed that in there. It sort of doesn't want to go any deeper. And because we're using an aftermarket gasket or aftermarket rope seal, we're going to have to cut it off. Now, when you read about the genuine ones and they say leave them as they are, you don't have to cut them, there'll be a little bit sticking out up the top here. Well, the problem with that is over time, and when you're fitting it, you must make sure you get it exactly even. Because if you have this one sticking up 2 millimeters and that one down level, it's not going to work. So what we need to do now, I'm just wiping things up as I'm going. What we need to do now is we need to cut these off the length required. So we need to leave a little bit sticking up so that when the two halves are compressed here, there's compression on the joint as well. So look, what I do sometimes with this is get a brand new part of your blade. I put my thick steel ruler there and I nearly cut my finger off. And this is always a bit of a problem with these seals. It's just the nature of the damn things. getting a little bit of a dag there. And what I'm doing here, I'm trying to get a nice flat edge, about, look, a millimetre or so higher than the top. And this fella here will do the same. And so you get that little piece sticking up there. You don't want that, you've got to get rid of that. But look, that's pretty good. I might still, there's a tiny little burr there, but that's how much I've got them sticking up. And we do the same on the other side. That's where the knife come and cut my finger before. I have to fill out a safety report next month sometime. Okay, so that's that one done. We'll pop him out, put him aside. Now this next one, you can clamp it. Where this housing is here, there's support there. So this one can sit down a little bit further so you can pick up those two bolt holes. And you're not distorting the housing at all, fitting it. So I'll try and get that in there like that. And we need this housing sitting up enough that we can roll the seal in. It's a bit hard trying to have it so we can film it and do that at the same time. Okay, let's try for that. Okay, that's enough to hold it. Now, I used to work where I did my apprenticeship many years ago. They always used to put aviation cement in there with the white seals, and we followed along for years and did the exact same thing. So that's probably not 100% necessary, but so we'll bring the sides out so we know it's pushing out, and then we'll try and roll the centre in. It's important that it's way down. It will compress a little bit. And I am putting quite a bit of pressure there. There's probably different ways of doing this. This is just how I do it. If you have a different way, doesn't say your way is wrong or my way is right. This is just for those who've never done it before. Hopefully I can give you a bit of a hand. Okay, so I've got the steel ruler there again. I've still got a little tit of, and so we're looking for a clean cut here. That's a, okay, that's pretty good. And that ruler would be 1 millimetre, I suppose. Try and get it where you can see it. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. So that's what my seal, I'll just wipe him up a little bit. They're quite dirty, these neoprene seals, these graphite impregnated seals. So that's what that one looks like. So now, these two halves, you can see the bit sticking out there, these two halves will have to go onto the tractor and be clamped together. Now, I often put a little bit of sealant through here. Oh no, it's just what I did. It doesn't say anything about that in the manual, but yeah, look, I do. I was just showed to do that as a young bloke, so we'll keep going, keep doing it. All right, let's go back over to the tractor now, and we'll get these fellas fitted up. Okay, time to fit these seals. So, we'll get the bottom seal here. We'll bring him up from underneath. And the bolts for the little ones, they have like a, actually I should show you. They have a little shake-proof washer, and then they have a little flat washer that backs up the shake-proof washer, and that goes against the aluminium in the housing, the alloy housing. So we bring the, I've put grease on here and grease on the crank. And so we bring this up from the bottom. I'll see if I can get a bolt started. I probably should have left one of the top bolts in, shouldn't I? There we go. Yeah, it's a bit tight yet, so. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'll try and keep my head out of the shadow if I can, but it's a bit hard. Bring these two sections together. And because of the gap, well, that's something I forgot to do. I normally put a little bit of sealant in here, so we'll do that while I think of it. So what the idea is we're going to bring these two pieces together. We're going to fit a couple of the longer bolts in to line the housings up and pull it down a bit until we can get it down close enough to get all of the bolt holes in for the halves. And once we've got all the bolt holes in and just barely firm, well, then we nip this right up and nip the whole show up. So we'll pop that up in there. We'll bring the top one down. And down the bottom here, I can just get that bolt started. Yep, that's just on its way. Bloody camera in the road. And that started as well. So we'll bring them down, try and bring them down even and together, like as we go. I'll get my little spanner here. And I'm not using a nut gun or anything on this, I just want it to be nice and steady, come together nice and steady. And then once we have it close enough for the holes, well, by putting the bolts in and holding it back firmly, we're actually making sure the two halves are back against the engine block. and being back against the engine block, they'll be nice and square. And now the bottom bolt, or the top bolt, because it's upside down, in the centre there, sometimes you can't get it in, you've got to put it in first, and that's the case with this one. It's not the case all the time, but it's the case with this one, so I just want to back this off just a little again. I'd forgotten about it until I was bloody... Okay, the bolt is in. It's in behind the crank flange. Look, I've turned the engine over and I had quite a bit of trouble getting these top bolts, so it's sitting in the correct orientation now. The little ones, they were just bloody tight to get in, so I've got them all in and started now. But look, what I'm doing is these through bolts, I'm just backing them off a little. And so they're not real tight. I don't want them tight just yet. I want them to try and line the housings up a little bit, but not too much. But what we're doing now, or what I'm doing now, is we're tightening all 7 bolts. So these 3 here that are holding the halves against the block, we're tightening them all up to the same tension, and we're just bringing them just firm, so they're just touching the mounting gasket. The reason we're doing that is so it can be, when we tighten the 2 halves down against each other, everything's in line. Like we're all, the front surface of the 2 halves is in line with the gasket. So all I'm doing here is running around, trying to put an even but light tension on all of the bolts. So we have even pressure against that gasket. Okay, so now I have even tension holding these 2 housings forward. I can come in and I can nip these 2 halves up together with the long through bolts. I'm going to have to come around the camera side. Okay, so that's quite firm, and we know those 2 halves will now be lined up. Okay, that feels good. Now at this stage, I'm going to just turn the crank from the front here. That's fine. Okay, so now we can run around. I'll get rid of the extension off my socket bar. We can run around and nip them all up. So we'll pull these fellas up. And in here we've got this little bloody thing. This fella fits. And you can see they've loosened off a bit once we've tightened them up. Just as everything sits together a little bit better. The filming's not real good on this because of the shadows, and I can't get a good camera position because of the stand here, and we have light troubles, and whole show's gone to shit. Yep. And bring this one down as well. And these bottom ones, we'll just nip them up as we go. So we're comfortable that everything's in place. Okay, so what I like to do now, as I mentioned before, the bottom holes all the way into the housing. So rather than rely on that alloy washer, once we're at this stage, I just like to pop them out. And look, I'm just putting a little bit of Loctite 515 on the threads, just as, oh shit, not that much. Just a little bit on the threads to seal along the threads so we don't get any surprises. And as we tighten each one up, well, we go up to full tension then. So I suppose the message I'm trying to get through is you get it lined up, get all the bolts in loosely, then as you start to pull it together to line the holes up, bolt the mounting ones that mount it to the block, bolt them right up into position, and then tighten your down through bolts. And the idea is to have it, the front surfaces of the rear engine seal here, nice and flat against that gasket that we put in. There's a little rattle there, and that's an extension rocking back and forth on the rocker cover. So a little bit of gasket goo on the bolt. The block will need a bit of a tidy up to get a bit of gasket goo around, and a petrol rag does that, and with a bit of gasoline on it. This job is actually far easier if you just have your tractor split and you're doing a clutch or something like that on it. This job is just a mile easier than what we've done here with the stand in the way. And I suppose, I just wanted to button the engine up. I suppose we could have actually left this job until later. But yeah, I was just a bit keen. So I'll just undo this last couple of bolts. A little bit of Loctite on 515 on them, just to seal them. And one to go. One can come out, a little bit of sealant on it, and back she goes. So I'm pretty sure that that's not going to leak on us. Yeah, that's it. It was a bit hard to get a good view of everything because I had to sort of stand there and get in there and all that. But look, hopefully it gives you the idea of what we're talking about. And yeah, when you come to do yours, there's enough information in this video to help you get your job done.